Hi everybody, Paul here. It's a beautiful day in the hill country, and today we're going to make a couple of rings from a bat, game used Major League Baseball bat from the Detroit Tigers. And this is Tucker Barnhart, so it is broken, but that doesn't stop me. I usually cut it about right here and cut up some little hockey pucks to make the rings out of and then stabilize them. So let's go in the shop and we'll start that process. Alright, I always like to start these with a disclaimer that I have nothing against Tucker Barnhart, the Detroit Tigers, or Major League Baseball in general, but we're going to cut up this broken bat, and you can see it's got this big crack. It is way broken, and make rings out of it. And the first step is to go ahead and chop it down so I can get it into my bandsaw. So here we go. The first cut is the deepest. Alright, let's cut out some little rounds to make the rings out of. Alright, here's the rest of that bat and a bunch of poker chips. I'm going to make some rings out of, so let's go ahead and put them into this resin. And some of them are thicker than others. Some of them make inlay rings, some of them make overlay rings, some of them make fatter rings. So alright, now we just cover them up with our metal, and we will weigh them down with some chain and put them into the vacuum chamber and vacuum out all the air. Alright, they're all nice and cozy in there in the vacuum chamber, and I'm gonna go ahead and suck out all the air. And I'll just say this, if you're planning on doing something like this, make sure you use a vacuum chamber with a tempered glass top, not an acrylic top. Bad things happen when you use an acrylic top. So let's get this guy started up. Alright, it's been sitting under the vacuum for a couple hours, so let's go ahead and release the vacuum. Release the vacuum. Now we'll just let it sit under the resin for another couple hours, and what that'll do is let that resin seep into the pores of that wood, and then we'll bake him in the little oven to set it. Alright, it's a couple hours later, and the pieces of wood have been sitting under the resin for a while. Get soaked up all that resin back into them. And now we're going to go ahead and put them on the cookie sheet. We're going to make the cookies. And if you notice, because they soaked up that resin, now they sink. They stay down at the bottom, so that's kind of cool. Alright, in they go. It's a hot day. I almost didn't need to turn on the oven. It's so freaking hot out here. But let them cook for about a little over an hour until that sets that resin. Alright, it's time to get the cookies. Oh, there they are. Oops, I have my glasses. Alrighty, bring them in and let them cool off. Alright, these are all looking pretty good. Just basically let them cool down, and then in a couple days we'll make some rings out of them. Alright, we got what's left of that bat. It's all been cut up. And this is Tucker Barnhart, and it's from the Detroit Tigers. And the customer sent me this bat to make these rings because it was pretty special to them. And here is a pink ceramic and a black ceramic inlay core that we're going to use to make those rings. And then some pieces of the wood from this bat that have been cut up and then stabilized in resin, so they'll be nice and firm. And going to go ahead and going to smooth these off, bore them out, and then I'll have to break them and then fit them onto these rings into that groove. So let's get started on that. Oh, and just by the way, this ceramic, it's not like ceramic like a coffee cup. This is actually titanium oxide ceramic. It's very, very durable and very, very scratch resistant, so I think it'll make some really pretty rings. Alright, let's get started on finishing these both here, so they'll be flat, and then we'll bore them out to fit these two different rings. Alright, we've measured this inlay channel with the calipers, and it's 23.24 millimeters. So I got a 23 millimeter bit chucked up, and we are going to bore this guy out with the 23 millimeter bit. Move this camera a little bit. There we go. Alright. Alright, now we're going to do a little bit of sanding until we get it down to about 23.5 millimeters using their custom sanding device. Now we've measured the size of that channel using the calipers. Right there, it's about 4.65 millimeters, and that little tail sticks out that amount. And now we're going to turn this flat side down till we get it right where that wood will fit in that channel. So we got a little bit of turning to do. Yep, that's about right. Alright, I got both these rings, the wood cut out. Did the same thing on this guy, this ring here, right? The small one. And but it was a 19 millimeter. So got that one there, got this one here. So now what I need to do is make some relief cuts here and here, and break these two pieces of wood. And then we'll clean the wood up and the ring up cores with denatured alcohol, and then we'll bond these rings together with 2-part epoxy. So let's get started. First thing I need to do is do the relief cuts, and then we'll do the moment of truth. Alright, here's the moment of truth on both of these. I'm going to go ahead and do the break. We get a good clean break. Ooh, that was a good clean break. And this one, got a good clean break on that one too. That looks pretty good. And that looks pretty good too. Looks like I've been living right, at least for this week. So now we just clean them up with denatured alcohol, and then we bond them together with 2-part epoxy. Alright, let's clean these up with denatured alcohol. We always start with the wood, because we want that wood for a little chance to dry out after we clean it. So let's clean up all the sides. And if you notice, this wood I've had to cut because to make it fit in my lathe chuck, I had to cut that round down a little bit, so, part of it, but didn't hurt it. It makes it still fine. So I'm going to cut this off anyway after we bond it and let it cure, and then we'll put it back on the lathe. So alright, let's go ahead and clean up those cores. Because they always have a little bit of oil from the machining process. We're going to make sure we get that out. That was pretty clean. And get this one cleaned up. Clean him up. Alright. Alright, let's go ahead and mix up a batch of epoxy. And then we will epoxy these guys together, and we will clamp him. We will clamp them with the clamps. With the clamps. The clamps. So start out with that part of the epoxy. And then this part of the epoxy. And this is a 24-hour epoxy. It takes a little longer to cure than like a 5-minute epoxy or something like that, but it just makes it so much stronger. This stuff is just so much stronger, and it's worth it. It's worth the extra time, that is for sure. Okay, we just mix them up. And it gives a better working time too. I don't have to like rush to get it bonded. I can take my time, and I can do both of these with one lot, with one application. Do 2 rings. Not like I'm working against the clock. I'm gonna take my time. Get it good and mixed first. That's the main thing. Get all that down from the sides. There we go. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and put some on this ring, on the inside on that wood, and as well as where it bonds that edge, just a little bit. This is a real small piece. It's a small ring, pretty small ring. Okay, and now we'll let that sit, and then we will put some in this channel of the ring itself. And we always want to do that. We always want to make sure that we get the epoxy on the ring and the wood, and then that way we don't have a dry connection, and that means we don't get any air pockets, so we get a good strong bond. We always want wet to wet. Okay, so I got that there. And trying to get more. Alright. And then we put him or her there and there. A little bit of a squeeze, not too much, and then we kind of twist it. Make sure we get that good and covered. And then we will clamp it, but not too tight. Just kind of finger tight. I mean, it's just basically holding that together. Just want it to hold it together is all we need to do. All right. And we start with this one. And put that epoxy on him, on the wood, and we'll give it a little time to soak into that wood. Okay, and we put it in here. This core. Make sure we get it all nice and wet on the inside. Yeah, that's one thing about these ceramic, is cleaning up's not really much of a problem, because you can take some abuse and it will not scratch. So you put it on the lathe and actually turn this stuff off, or sand it. It does not scratch. Alright, so we'll put this one in there, and that one in there, and give it just a little bit of a squeeze to get that down, and a turn, and we'll clamp on just to hold it. Just to hold it is all it's got to do. It's just got to hold it. That's all it's got to do. Alright, we just let them set overnight, come back, and then we'll work on it tomorrow. Alright, both these rings have cured overnight, and we're going to go ahead and cut closer with the bandsaw around here. Going to turn these to shape. Then we'll put finish on them, and we got a little bit of a surprise for this finish, in the finish for this one. Show you later. And then polish them and get them all ready. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll start out by cutting around the bandsaw, and then going ahead and shaping them on the lathe. All right, let's get this guy turned. All right, let's turn the smaller ring, the pink ring. All right, this customer wanted a little extra sparkle on this ring. So what I'm going to do is take some sterling silver wire and kind of shave little bits of it off and get some like little bitty, just some shavings of silver. And then we're going to inlay that into this ring, and then before we put the finish on it. So what that'll do is have a little bit of little silver sparkles here and there. So I'm going to go ahead and get these, get us some silver shavings, and then we'll inlay it, and then we'll go ahead and sand it, make sure that it doesn't bump up or anything, and then we will put the top coat over it. So that hopefully give it kind of a little bit of extra sparkle. There we go. Try to capture all that. There we go. Alright, let's get a few more shavings. That'll work, but I just want to make sure I got enough to make it look really nice. That should do it. Oh yeah. Alright, we got a bunch of little silver shavings in there, and then we'll use that to inlay into this ring. So, get some film finish thin. Finish thin here. This over there to catch anything. And we put a little fill and finish on there. And we sprinkle on some of this silver. Just a little sparkle. Just to give it a little sparkle there. Okay. Alrighty, so there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and let that dry, and then we'll put it back on the lathe, smooth it down, and then we'll put the finish on. So let's give it a little sparkle, a little added sparkle. Alright, we got her ring back on the lathe, and we're just going to do a light sanding and try to, because these are pretty rough, so we're going to go ahead and sand those down till they're just the little sparkles left. Alright, let's put some finish on these things. Alright, we just let them go and then put a few more coats on them. Alright, so now we're going to chuck the ring back up in the lathe, and then we will use the scratch free and then the polishing 1, 2, and 3, and that just kind of gets it to a mirror surface, and then we'll take it over to the buffing wheel. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, I got a little bit of that scratch free on my blue towel here, and now we go ahead and buff it. This is the number 1. We put it on, then we kind of buff it off really good. It just takes a little bit. So that's the number 2. And we buff it off. And this is after we had sanded. We sanded it. Can show that actually. Again. And the number 3. And we wipe it off. And then we just take it over to the buffing wheel and give it a good final buffing. Alright, just kind of polish on the inside, just a final. Both of them. Alright, and then final polishing here. There we go, it's a spin. Got those 2 rings, looking pretty good. Alright, here's those Major League Baseball bat rings on ceramic cores. I don't know if you can see the little bit of sparkle in that one that I put with that sterling silver in the sunlight, but looks pretty good. I think the customer would be pretty pleased. Here's the bat that it came from. And if you would like a ring made from a Major League Baseball bat, from the deck of a battleship, from a stock of an M1 Grand, or some other heritage or legacy wood, please check out hillcountryrings.com or drop a line in the comments if you'd like to see me make something different. I'm always doing custom work, and I'd love to make a ring for you. Thanks, everybody.